late. But nevertheless, how are things going on with you guys?
Great. We're in the middle of our Kickstarter, launching our product here.
Hmm.
So we just launched it 2 weeks ago and runs through the end of the month. So we're excited about that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and while that's running, we're also working on some engineering tasks because we had an early access group of users for our product that we're rolling out that have been using it since July.
Hmm.
And we've got some great feedback we're incorporating into our mobile app and the device and how it works. So yeah, we've got good stuff, good irons in the fire, a lot of stuff going on.
Right. And if you were to like think about the situation now, um, prior to COVID versus now, how do you explain your own journey now? Based on all the experience that you're getting.
Well, it's interesting. We started full time, like Adam came on to the company full time in, was the first week of March?
Yeah, it was about then. Yeah.
First week of March, last week of February. And we had gone out, we had found office space. We were going to set up an office for the three partners. And it sort of kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. And we decided to move and do everything completely virtual, which, we were planning on doing, being in the office maybe 3 days a week or something like that. But now it's turned into, it's actually, in a way, is good. It saved us money because we don't have to pay for an office for the last 6 months. So that's been a benefit.
Yeah.
But it means we do things like when we built our 50 prototypes, we did it in my kitchen. Yeah. So and we have meetings here. We all are fortunate. We're remote, but we live within about a 2 or 3 mile radius of each other.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a 10-minute. I'm sort of in the middle of the circle, if you will. So it's like 10 minutes for either of them to come to me, or vice versa. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I think one something I've felt is not having our local community tech meetups. Orlando, Florida is a pretty rich and vibrant tech community, and they had several things from AWS, Amazon user groups to just tech. There was a big one called Tech and Beer, where a bunch of tech enthusiasts to get together, drink beer, and network. Those were great. We attended some of those last year before the company really got off the ground. And when we started off, we figured we would be networking, showcasing our idea, our product there, and that's gone.
Hmm.
yeah.
So that's been a challenge.
Hmm. Hmm. And yeah, and how are you doing that at the moment? Like, what are the things that you've tried so far, as far as uh, doing the same thing but maybe virtual? What have you already tried?
Um, we haven't really done too much of that yet. We've done a podcast. So there's an Alexa podcast that does a weekly live stream. So we
Hmm.
were guests on that. But the local meetups, there's some of them have become virtual, but a lot of them have just sort of paused, or instead of being once a month, they'll do something every 2 or 3 months. So since we've only been in the Kickstarter for 2 weeks, it just hasn't come up yet that there's been an opportunity for us to plug the product and talk about what we're doing. But we hope that's the case. We
Hmm.
hope they'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, given the circumstances that we are in, when we look at the future, perhaps we're looking at least a year from now. If we are lucky, we will start to see the normal, what we call the normal in the past, right? So this is
Yeah.
what we will see, at least give or take 1 year at least. That's what we are hoping here in the European region, um, to come back to the normal period. And I'm sure, in from your perspective, a lot of things that you want to ideally achieve by then are quite a lot. Can you maybe explain me a little bit in terms of what are the things that you are planning to do as far as your product is concerned, and and perhaps maybe just give a little bit of a background there as far as where did this idea came up, from, and so forth. Yeah.
Oh, the idea for the product that came up about 2 years ago when we were working on building some Alexa-enabled technology. So we were trying to build a sensor that would work with Alexa, and we just kind of realized that nobody was addressing or talking about the problem that Alexa's listening to you all the time. And so our product stops Alexa from listening to you for however long you want. You say, Alexa, go away, and if you programmed it for an hour, it'll turn off for an hour. And so we just thought there should be something to do that, and we didn't see anything on the market. And I contacted a patent attorney, and we did a patent search, and we didn't find any prior art. So we filed for a patent back in 2018, and we kind of kept doing what we were doing with our sensor project and forgot about it for a while. And then when it became apparent that the patent would actually be issued, we kind of switched off of the sensor project and went back to this device. And then when it started becoming apparent that COVID was going to happen and people would be working from home a lot, we thought that there was even more demand for our product because of that, because of all the people now working from home, and they have an Alexa device at home, and now they're talking about, proprietary information, or we have a lot of attorneys are working from home now. And so their legal conversations are now happening in front of an Alexa device, or even telemedicine with doctors and nurses working from home. The privacy of medical information is a law here in the United States. And so, in some ways, if you're a doctor and you're speaking in front of your Alexa device and it's on, you're potentially liable for a fine from the government for that. And so we just thought it was a good time to bring it to market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And does this only work with Alexa, or are there other companies like Google, with the Google Home? Do you also have the solution for that, or like it just work for Alexa at the moment?
We do have a plan to expand it to work with Google Home. The only real difference is we have an Alexa skill, so we need to create the equivalent Google skill. And then just physically, the plug, the power plug for the Google device is a little bit different size. So our solution to that is we send adapters with our product. So you put in the right size adapter for the product you have. And so it's just a matter of getting the adapters manufactured and developing the Google version of the skill. So we plan on having that happen soon after we get the Alexa version to market fully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we also outlined that Google Assistant compatibility as a stretch goal with our Kickstarter. If we fund over 100% and we see that there's enough money there to get that kicked off sooner than later, we would have those sooner. So it's just a matter, like Darren said, it's the adapter and the software. We're already, 9/10 of the way there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting, because why I said that is like I have the same problem. Is I turn on my Google Home, and when my daughter is asking questions, it's well good, right? The things are working as it should. But let's say if I'm turning on the television and then the Google Home is next to that, then it would start to react weirdly, which you don't expect, right? It would say something that you didn't ask for, and that is bothering me. And at some point, I had to turn it off, right? And the things that I want to use is not being used at the moment. It's in myself somewhere. It's not being used. So that was my solution to the problem that you were trying to solve, right? And maybe that's not a good solution that I thought of, right? Maybe I had to think it differently, because my son is now growing up, is 2.5. So at some point he starts to speak better, and then he starts to ask questions. So maybe those are the things that I want to still use. And I was thinking about, okay, maybe this would be one of the solutions that I can apply to my own house, So
Right. Yeah, we don't see it just as, I think medical professionals and law professionals are definitely a business category of ours, but your use case, everything you just said rings true. We've heard that story from a lot of people that we've spoken to about the product, and they think it would just be, there are times at home, just family time, personal time, where you'd want it to not listen. But you love it and you don't want to throw it away, right? We bought them for a reason. We like them, so.
Yeah, I mean, in the first place, I wanted to just try it out. Like it was like advertised quite well, so I said, why not? Like I'll give it a try. So I bought it, and when it was released, like I think it was in 2016 or 17, like whenever it was released, I forgot it. But then it was around that time, and then I bought it, and I felt great for the first few months, and then quickly I realized the downside of having that turned on all night, right? So it is to weirdly do something, and then all of a sudden you just turn off or turn on, and those kind of things, and then it, as soon as it turns on, it has that sound as well, right? It comes back with the sound like a Windows sound, right? So back in
Right.
those days, we used to have the waking up sound,
Yeah.
and it's not funny during the night, like when you were listening to that, and it has a big volume as well. So it didn't work. It didn't work out for me, you know. So
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And who is your customer if you have to think about your targeted group of customer? Of course, you mentioned the lawyers and certain group of people, but other than that, what do you think about your other customer segment?
Go ahead, Darren. Do you have?
Okay, yeah. So it's people looking for convenience. So for people who want to have privacy, but also some convenience, because currently, in a way, our product's not necessary, right? You can go and unplug it, or you can hit the mute button, and then later hit the mute button again. But that just becomes very inconvenient to do all the time. So you do it less often, or you forget, and then you want to ask Google or Siri or Alexa something, and it's still off because you forgot to turn it back on, and if you're like us and we've got several of them in the house, now you're walking around your house pressing 4 buttons, and to us, the whole purpose of Alexa and Google Assistants are convenience, right? So you can ask it something, you can tell it to do something by voice, and now if you have to go do this manual chore for when you don't want that, then it defeats the purpose of having it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So people who want convenience, that's, people who have really bought into the concept of convenience through technology. I think that is a core demographic. And in addition, we think our product even opens it up into some of the people who were on the edge. Maybe I want one of these smart home devices, maybe I don't, I'm not sure. If they had a little bit of a reservation about that because of the privacy factor, we think our product opens the door and even expands Amazon and Google's market and Apple's market. So we're pretty sure that those manufacturers would love our product because it opens the doors to more people buying them. Because we have spoken to people, again, in our early phase testing and early questionnaires. Some people, one of our early access customers bought, finally plugged in their Echo because they had a BUZZOFF, our device. So.
And one additional one, which is something new that we're looking into, we think is a good target, but we haven't reached into it yet, is sort of an enterprise level solution for businesses that have a lot of people working from home and doing what we're doing right now. They're doing Zoom calls. So the ability for a company to say, are we doing a Zoom call and shut off all of everyone's smart devices from some centralized control during a Zoom meeting is a segment we're looking at.
If you look at the technology itself that you're trying to implement, do you think it can be applied to other IoT devices? Think about other sensors or anything that is listening to you, but it's not reacting the same way as Alexa or other devices, but in principle, it is actually doing the same thing, right? There might be other IoT devices. There's so many you can think of. Can that be
Yeah,
applied to? Yeah.
indeed. Yeah, we've had a couple of people say that they'd like to be able to essentially say, I want private time right now, and it would also turn off things like webcams they have.
Yeah.
You've got your surveillance camera system, but you want to make sure that's off too, so you can put in it'd be a slightly different physical form factor, right? We got to meet whatever power requirements that device has, etc.
Mm-hmm. Smart
Yeah.
TVs as well.
Yeah,
Smart
smart
TVs
TV.
have
Yeah.
cameras,
Yeah.
microphones.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, we have thought about that space, and it's come to us from other people. So absolutely, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. Because when we are connecting everything to the internet, obviously there's a downside to that. We are connecting every single little thing. Maybe one day I will see my water bottle being connected to the internet for whatever good reason. I don't know, but I might see that, right? So and it may have its own purpose. Maybe it wants to track the amount of water that I drink in a single day, but at the same time, it might be quietly listening to me, right? So.
That sounds laughable at first, but this
Yes.
pencil has a Bluetooth receiver in it.
Yes.
This is not
Yeah.
a funny. This is not a make-believe
Exactly.
concept, right?
Yeah,
This pencil is connected to my network.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. And that is scary, if you think about it from people's perspective. And
Yes.
we didn't want none of this, by the way, in the first place. We didn't wanted none of this. And now we have to think about the ways we can turn it off, right? And maybe we are thinking about a solution that would be a central switch on and off sort of solutions, which would eventually turn it off, all at once, right? So that might be something that we can think of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, and the whole point of our model is we don't see the technology as the villain. Right. I mean, it's helping us. It's connecting people. It makes our lives more convenient. It reminds us to do things. It's incredible. I'm happy to live in this point in our evolution where we have this technology. So we never want to cast these devices as the bad guy. We just want to provide a way where we can turn it back off for just a little bit of time, exactly when we want, and then turn it back on when we want it back. So I think that's important. I think that's an important aspect of what we're doing, because there are some other privacy companies out there that are painting Google and Amazon as the villain, or they're painting the technology itself as the villain. It's like, no. I love this stuff. I'm a technology enthusiast. I was, when I grew up as a little kid watching Star Trek, and you see the captain of the Enterprise tell the computer in the air to turn the lights on. Yeah. We're in that reality now, and I think that's great. I don't want to see that go away.
No, indeed, you're right, because I think people love the technology, but at the same time, it should be in our ability to say, okay, I don't want this right now, I don't want this right now, versus, oh, I want this right now, So I think maybe your solution is just indicative of what you're saying, So
yes,
yeah. Okay, and how does this work? Like, are you also connected to the internet, or it is not connected to the internet?
Yeah, so our device is connected to the internet, but it does not have a microphone. Okay. So we're using an Alexa skill, just like you tell a smart outlet to turn off. We're using an Alexa skill to turn off our device, but our device provides the power to Alexa. So once it's turned off your Alexa device or your Google Home, it can't hear you anymore. So to turn it back on, you either have to wait for it to wake back up, or you can use the app on your phone to turn it on sooner. Or there's a physical button on the device to wake it up sooner. But most people, they'll just take out their phone and they'll tap a button and all their Alexas will turn back on if they want them sooner. And so what that allows us to do is when we do have the Google support, you'll be able to either ask Google to turn off all your devices or ask Alexa to turn off all your devices. And you'll be able to do that if, with your question earlier, what if we have a device for cameras and all this as well? Those things will be able to happen across whatever brands of devices you have. And so even if Google were to build some similar functionality into their device, it's not going to work with an Alexa, and it's not going to work with some, you know, random webcam that you bought. So our system will work, like you said, all at once across everything you have.
Yeah. And then what sort of challenge that you're facing? I mean, you of course, you know, you explained the business side of the challenge, but then if you think about the vision that you have, right? If you think about the way you want to go, where the challenge is?
Well, there's a couple. The first is just in the customer education is part of it. So, you know, some people, they'll push back to the message and they say, well, if I wanted privacy, I wouldn't buy an Alexa in the first place. And so that part of them is probably not part of our market because they're not interested in having technology. But other people, you know, the question is also, well, it has a mute button, so how is your product better? And so there's a little education in explaining how it's more convenient, especially to people who have multiple devices. But right now, the biggest challenge is marketing, especially in the time of COVID, where we can't go out and do these face-to-face meetups, and there are no trade shows happening right now, and we can't go do a demo in a store, for instance, at the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's all purely digital outreach right now. And so as a new company that doesn't have a big following and big installed customer base, it's difficult to get the message out and get that traction.
You wanted to say something, Adam, like you said?
No, I mean, pretty much, you know, echoing on the last part of what Darren said. You know, we're a team of 3 partners who are really good engineers, and we have a great product we believe in, and we truly believe there is a use case for and so we're really good at building it. So we really need to sharpen our marketing knives, or you know, that's our weak link, weaker than the rest. I think the COVID environment in the pandemic has definitely hobbled some of our tool set there to market how we could have. So, you know, we see, like I said, we know it's a great idea. We actually have a catalog on our website of news articles proving it's a needed thing. We have hundreds of published news stories collected from around major publications in in newspapers in the last year of Alexa eavesdropping or hearing something, and the stories are scary and funny and everything in between. So yeah, that's our challenge, is getting the word out and showing people that there is an answer that's comfortable.
Right. And when you look at this particular market, like what you're tackling, what sort of pushback that you can think in terms of technology itself, or maybe I would like to refer, put it together in a different way. What if Amazon has to come up with something very similar, and then they would say, okay, you know, this would be applied to our Alexa by default, right? So do you see those kind of possibilities where you have to challenge the status quo, you know, maybe Amazon or Google and so forth, like they come up with their own device as such, you know? Do you see those possibilities? I'm just being hypothetical at the moment, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We see that that's certainly a risk to us as a company. But part of the counter to that risk is a lot of people, even though it's been documented that the mute button on your Alexa actually works, a lot of people are highly skeptical that it's actually working, or that some government agency hasn't hijacked your software and disabled the button but turns the light on so you think it's muted, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's that level of paranoia, if you will, of that. But there's also just, it's sort of counter to what Amazon and Google are trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's not really, unless they're forced into providing this level of feature by the market, they're not going to do it. It's against their strategy of what they're doing. They want their devices listening all the time for functionality reasons.
Yeah, Google makes money off of ads. Amazon makes money by selling products. Mm-hmm. And listening to your conversations helps them do that by targeting you as a demographic and tagging your interests. Apple is probably the only wild card there. They make money by selling phones and MacBooks and iPads. So they're actually not too bad on the privacy radar, even though they do have the Apple HomePod, mm-hmm. which has a much smaller market penetration. We're not, in a rush to get to that anyway. But with Google and Amazon, yeah, it's counter to their business model. So we're not sure if we're going to see actual pushback. We don't know if we're going to get a phone call from a team of attorneys about this. So honestly, I think that's exciting to even the prospect that we show up on their radar as a problem. Good, let's do it. Let's be a problem.
But that's a very good problem, by the way. If you are to be in that radar, then I think you've done it, right? You've actually proved your point and proved the existence of your technology, and it means like it's working, right? So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. I would enjoy that phone call.
Then call me back, promote, it worked.
Right.
We would definitely take satisfaction if we, through our actions with our little company, changed the status quo and people's devices got better privacy because of us. We would lose money if that happened. But we would have, in a way, we would have changed the world for the better by doing that. Yeah. And so, from that standpoint, it's worth trying.
Mm-hmm. So it is that diluted, right? So it's more like we are all trapped, right? We are all trapped in such a chaos, that we cannot even come out of it, right? Even people are listening to us, as a result, we have this conversation. So yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
And what do you think about it being used in, let's say, in the office space? Of course, like we don't have an office space at the moment, but let's say in future, how do you think it's going to be used in the office space? Thinking about many different devices, again, used in the office space. Can that be a possibility? Because, from company's perspective, maybe they want to listen to the conversation people are having, right? At the same time, some company does that, right? So do you think those kind of things can be applied more on the enterprise level, meaning it can be massively, let's say, implemented within the office space?
I would think so. If I was a company that was allowing Alexa type devices in the office, mm-hmm. which I think most companies don't, but there are certainly ones that are working in less sensitive industries that do. I would see this being a good mitigation of risk to say, you can have an Alexa, but you have to have a device to shut it off when you need to have private time, and then having it linked into doing things you're doing. So when you're doing a video call or when you're on the phone or anything like that, or making it easy to mute it for a little while, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the office space is tough. I personally have never seen a smart speaker like an Echo or a Google Home Assistant. I've never seen one in an office, but I hear that they are out there. I don't think there's a lot of market penetration there, but definitely a BUZZOFF would make that more amenable, I think, to a company.
I was referring to one of my example, going to a hotel, right? And then asking for, hey, Google, can you do this? And then when the Google responds, yes, I can do this for you in hotel, then it means like there's something happening inside the hotel as well. I've seen hotels having those devices, inside their rooms. So that's where the idea is coming from. It's like, okay, if they can have in the hotel, then perhaps they're also trying it out in office space, maybe not in the direct form of Alexa or something, in the form of maybe Google Home, but it might be other devices which are actually doing that. Like from the previous conversation we had, like maybe mobile cam, right? So maybe a smart TV. Those things are very
Mhm.
much likely to be in the office space, right? So that's where it's like you can have a very private conversation within the office space as well, like the board of directors talking in a sessions, and maybe they want to turn off everything that they don't want
Mhm.
the other people to hear those conversations, right? So
Right.
Yeah, that
Well,
was certainly one of the cases we think where you would see a smart speaker in an office would be in a conference room where it can be
mhm,
used essentially as a speakerphone,
mhm.
but wanting to be able to disable that when you're having a private meeting. I see that as a little more likely than people having them in their office or in their cubicle. Especially in a cubicle environment, it's too noisy for people to have
Yeah,
speakers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
the
that could be.
hotel idea is actually that Amazon does have what is it? I believe they call it Alexa for hospitality.
Yeah, something like that. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So some hotels have gone ahead and put echoes in the hotel rooms. So that's something that we definitely talked about early on, where we're going after the consumer initially here, but I could envision a hotel room that you walk into and it says protect, privacy protected by BUZZOFF. And
Hmm.
there's a button on the wall, or you can speak the invocation and it could control, it could turn off the echo, it could turn off the smart TV, it could maybe even turn off the telephone because there's a speaker and a microphone in there too, right?
Hmm.
It's the original eavesdropping device.
Hmm.
So yeah, I envision that's a possibility.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's even a move. Amazon's been releasing some products with uh, rolling out Alexas into multifamily housing, apartment complexes, with the idea that Alexa is built into the apartment, and when you move out and the new tenant moves in, they're able to centrally manage that and erase all of the information from the previous tenant. So your apartment, one of the features to attract renters is it comes with built-in Alexa,
Hmm.
but they're ignoring the other side of that, which is people who move in who want to turn off Alexa,
Hmm.
and so I could
Yeah.
see that as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And when you see all these possibilities, of course, this would encourage you, right? Of course, at the same time, the COVID is a little bit of let's say a disappointment. But at the same time, you are saving some money, like you said before, by not renting the office space. That's a good way to look at it, right?
Yeah. And also, like we were saying, more, even more people than ever are working remotely from home. So I think
Yeah.
it's really, I think it's highlighted the reason. I mean, the reasons were there before COVID, but now that folks are working from home more, I think it underscores it even deeper. So
Mhm.
in that way, we may get something back. Yeah, we may get a little bit back from this. Which obviously we wish the pandemic never happened.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Yeah. There's a lot of companies who are struggling, including hospitality and tourism and so forth. So it is one of those situations where we cannot say, okay, how can we be certain about the future? There's no certainty. Yet, I see entrepreneurs like you, like who are who are digging deep and trying to create something interesting for all of us. And I'm quite excited about what you're trying to do. You know, initially I didn't put a notice on what you were creating, but as we went through the conversation and I see the applications in different things, and perhaps I'm better convinced now about your product. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, and that's what Darren had said just a few minutes ago. One of our challenges is customer education, because
yeah,
it's hard to sum up the volume of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it can help everyone. If that's
yeah,
hard to sum up in a tagline
yeah,
or, you know, a 5-word advertisement, it's hard to do that.
yeah,
So that is one of our challenges, and I'm really thrilled to hear that you feel like
yeah,
you've really gotten on board with the concept. So
yeah.
that's great to hear.
Yeah, because I see this is being used in multiple different scenarios, right? You know, and like I said, I'm also one of those enthusiasts about technology, and I use that very often. I like to try things out, and then I even wonder, like, why did I even buy that, right? I do that most of the time, and I buy different things, right? Stupid things you can think of, I buy that, and then I regret, and I put it on the shelf somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, and indeed, like this kind of tools would support us in terms of controlling our privacy and being ethical about using those as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you see the future now going forward? Like, what are the you talked about the challenges, like that being the marketing. I get that, but at the same time, if you think about other areas, like, you know, as far as innovation within the technology that you're working with, maybe you want to have voice with your device. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the moment, it's not listening or doing anything, right?
Mhm.
Do you also want to enable voice to that? You know, because if I say, "Hey, BUZZOFF, you know, stop everything," if I just say that, then maybe it's slightly more convenient for me, you know, as a user. But would it be a add-on to the voice layer, which it already is trying to stop?
That's our kind of opinion of it, is that we've been asked that question before, you know,
Yeah.
who's stopping you from listening? And then we have to explain that our technology doesn't use microphones. Um, we think the power of being able to voice command it, just using the platforms that are out there,
Hmm.
you know, is already, it's already going to be better than anything we could make without having to license Alexa technology or something similar.
Mhm.
So, you
Yeah.
know, there are potentials for other ways to activate it. So our patent doesn't just cover the voice activation. You can picture things like using your work ID card or the proximity of a Bluetooth device like your phone or something like that to activate and deactivate automatically. Uh,
Hmm.
we foresee that kind of stuff, and we foresee just a lot more integration with the process and automating how it turns on and off, so you don't have to just do it by remembering that you want some privacy, but enabling certain events or things that you're doing to automatically do it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that the name of the game is privacy with convenience. So yeah, that's great. Like you said, Bluetooth proximity. It could, you know, if you have, you know, not, I don't think people have them, but if you had a way that's when you close the office door, it turns on. So yeah, everything from other events, from other smart devices. We really think that all the sensors are already out there, right?
Hmm.
So if we can just kind of like integrate what's already on the playing table, pretty much get that to work with our product to make the privacy even more convenient.
Now I'll ask you a little bit off the grid sort of question, you know, because I like to ask this question to you know, entrepreneurs who are especially with this, you know, who are creating solutions, you know, or products, you know, like you guys are doing. Uh, you know, there are many devices that we are connecting to the internet, right? So as we connect to the device, it means there are two things that are happening. One of them is obviously we are using more internet, and then we are using more power. And what do you think about your device, BUZZOFF, using power? You know, is it how environmental friendly it is?
Well, so one of the things we did is for convenience reasons, we didn't want you to have to plug into another plug and have another AC to DC adapter, which every time you have those, they lose some amount of power. So we built ours to sit in between your Alexa and its power source. And so we siphon off a little bit of power from your Alexa. And so in order to do that, we have to operate on very low amount of power. So we're very energy efficient in that regard because we have to be. Otherwise, the Alexa won't work anymore because we took too much of the power that's going to it. So that's been our approach, and that gives you both convenience. So because it might not be possible wherever you have your Alexa plugged in to plug in another plug, right? And also just form factor wise, environmental, we've engineered it to make it very, very small. It's only about 12 millimeters thick. And so, you know, it's a little thin disc of plastic that sits underneath it. And so we are very conscious of minimizing the impact of the device by keeping it small, reducing the power usage, and even down to our packaging. You know, we're using a tin that's reusable for the package, and we're avoiding any styrofoam or single-use plastic, and the things that come with it are all recycled paper. So we're very conscious of that. There's another device out there called AlexaGate that is an ultrasonic jammer, and we looked at the packaging, and there's, you know, maybe a half a kilo of foam in their package just to package the device. And it seems wasteful, and we're trying not to be wasteful.
Yeah, especially at this point in time, as we are, you know, in a very difficult time, and then if we are to bring technologies that are going to support us, but at the same time, it has a downside as far as affecting the environment as such, by putting a lot of stress on the energy consumption, then maybe we're not doing a very good job there, right? So maybe that's the question, you know, I was trying to get into.
Yeah, I mean, our standby power usage is something like 20 milliamps or something like that. It's quite low. The other thing we did, again, it's just part of the way we want to design the product, is we don't like the products where you buy it to fit another device. Perfect example is I bought an alarm clock for my original iPhone, and a year later I couldn't use my new iPhone with the clock I bought because it didn't fit. Right? And so we've designed ours to accept a wide range of voltages, and we use these little adapters to change the plugs. So our approach is, when Amazon comes out with a new device, if we can get an adapter made that makes it work with BUZZOFF, now we can have something that will span the life of several generations, because maybe you upgrade your Google Home to a new version because you want a better speaker or whatever it is. And hopefully you'll still be able to use your BUZZOFF. We don't want you to have to throw it away and buy the new BUZZOFF that fits the new speaker, if at all possible. And so I guess that's bad for us, for business, we don't sell as many BUZZOFFs, but we think ultimately that's the way products should be designed.
Yeah. So you're thinking more in terms of modular product, right? So you can reuse, and maybe the software would change. You know, maybe you want to upgrade on the software as such, but not the hardware itself, right? That's what you're aiming for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
And what if you know companies like Amazon or Google, they change their hardware at some point? You know, if they change their hardware shape a little bit, slightly, you know, it means like your adapter also needs to be changed, right? You know, do you see that as a threat to the way you want to operate?
Potentially. You know, I look at the way we've built it. It's not quite like, you know, a phone case. You buy a phone case and it fits an iPhone 4, but not an iPhone 5, right?
Yeah.
So this is more like like I've got one sitting here next to my laptop. I've got a case for my iPad, but it's a universal. It's, you can put a Galaxy tablet in there or something else, or a different model of iPad. Maybe, and it's got some little adapters with it too. Maybe you have to switch out a little piece so that it's bigger or smaller, but so far we haven't really seen anything like that. Like we support, I think, 18 models of Echo out of one product. And the only difference is the adapters, which are like this. So, we're adapting that size fitting to that slightly different size fitting. And so they're very simple. They're, cost 25 cents each to make, that kind of price. So
not to mention the amount of market share that the sheer number of Echoes that Amazon sells, for example. If they did a wildly different form factor that was going to give us a problem, we have this huge audience of potential customers that isn't going to slow us down right away, because there's just so many devices out there. So there will be a lot of, so it would not be a direct immediate threat to our business if they did a wild change up. We would have time to react.
Okay. And now trying to know, I think Adam mentioned before, like you guys are engineers from your background. Can you maybe give me a little bit of give me an understanding about like what you guys used to do in the past, and why did you end up being an entrepreneur now? Or is that something that you were already thinking of doing from past several years or something? Maybe a little bit of background there.
Well, sure, I'll go first. So before this, I was the founder of a company that did simulation software and vehicle displays. So Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvos, Hyundais, and then also some different aircraft systems would use the software that we made. So I did that for about 25 years. I started out as a C++ programmer.
I used to do C++ as well in the past, so but I really was bad at it. So yeah.
So I started that company in the early 90s, and we sold it in 2016, and I kind of retired in my 40s with nothing else to do. And I've known Adam for a long time, and we just started just because we liked the technology, the smart home technology. We just started basically messing around with IoT tech and trying to make our own. And then we thought he had a bunch of Amazon Echoes, and we thought, well, it'd be cool if they worked with Echo. And so we started working on a temperature sensor that we were going to get working with his Echo devices. And that's when we decided, hey, who is it who's doing something about Alexa listening to us? And that's when this whole thing started. I'll speak for Doug for a second before Adam goes.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Other partner who's not here today, Doug Classy, he worked for me at my other company, but his background is he's an electrical engineer and a musician, and he builds his own guitar pedals, and he repairs guitar amplifiers, like tube amplifiers, anything like that. And so when we got to the point in our temperature sensor where we needed to actually build something, I contacted him, and he was interested in helping out with that. And he stayed with us through this, and he was really into the vision of doing some privacy around Alexa. And so he's been doing all of that work for us. And then Adam.
Yeah. My background, I go about 20 years ago, I started my career as a web developer. And through that, I kind of advanced, more into systems administration, then into application architecture, cloud systems architecture. The theme of my career has always been, I never wanted to work for, say, an accounting firm. I never really wanted to, do some kind of, purely capitalistic thing. I always wanted some kind of a positive feel-good story in there. So my first large segment of my career was working with higher education. I worked on the technical team with a university here in Orlando and helped them build their learning management system from the ground up. That was in the earlier years of online learning. So that felt great. And then from there, I moved on and I started working in senior care. So I was working on, I was writing software and managing cloud systems that helped operate salons and in the senior care space. And again, that felt good. I like that, you know, connecting people, which is great because, you know, machines can only do so much. I like to have a human element in it.
Yeah.
So then when, as Darren said, our idea came to fruition, when it came time to say, hey, we could make a business out of this, we can really make a difference with this product, let's do it. I thought, yeah, privacy is important. There is the human aspect to that story as well. It's not just a, you know, it's not just a money-making agenda. There is actually something we believe in. So I believed in higher education when I worked with that. I believed in bringing quality, you know, to senior care. And then now I believe in bringing privacy to everybody's home. Particularly in the events of the last handful of years, seeing how as we lose our privacy, how our data is used against us, which is obviously a sensitive topic in the United States with our election coming up. So it matters. So that's kind of been that's the shape of my career. It's gone up from software development through just architecting information technology and coming up with ideas that connect people and help people. That's where I come from.
Interesting background you guys have, and yet you're trying to work together. I was wanted to ask, like, how is the manufacturing done at the moment? Are you importing some of the parts from let's say Far East, or you're then assembling it in the US, or like, how does that work at the moment?
So Doug does all our designs and the printed circuit board design, and we're getting those manufactured in China, and the board is assembled in China. And then those are coming over to us along with the various adapters and connectors that we have to order. The housing, let me grab one of these. You've probably seen this on our website. The housing right now, we're not sure what we're going to do. We eventually, to get to mass scale, we want to do injection molding on them. But with the volumes we're doing for the Kickstarter, we're actually 3D printing these ourselves. And, so if we do 200 or 300 for the Kickstarter, we'll just 3D print those in-house. And then the final assembly happens here in the US. So we put the printed circuit board in here, and we load our software in, and we put the screws in and put it all in the box.
Interesting.
When we get the larger volume, more of that will be pushed overseas. And we'll probably just be putting the software on here and doing the final testing here. But we have to get to the volumes to have the enclosures made in China as well.
So when is your next, like you said, like there's a fundraiser, you're starting a Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's in progress.
Okay.
We can send you the link to that if you don't have it already. But
no, absolutely. It would be nice if you can send me the link, and when we publish the story, we will add that link there. So
great.
Yeah. The campaign runs until October 2nd. So we're about 2 weeks or so away for that. And and then after that, we'll be preparing for the retail holiday season. So hopefully we can make that work for us too.
Yeah.
I will say for the Kickstarter, it's worth noting that we're only delivering in the United States for the Kickstarter, just because we haven't gone through, you know, the legal things we have to do to sell in Europe or even Canada. You know.
No, that's fine, as long as your product gets out there and people talk about it, and I think that's more important. And once you've crossed that stage, then perhaps, you know, the next logical step would be to expand and so forth. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to see them. We'd love to offer our product internationally. Yes.
All right. We've actually come very close to the 1 hour. I I blocked for you guys, and I guess you may have other things to do as well. I'm already wasting a lot of time of yours.
No,
Uh,
we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
yeah. No, no, indeed. I quite like I said before, I want to repeat this again. I really like initially when I was just going through your site and so forth. Maybe I was not connecting to the product. I was not connecting to the story that you had to say. But after your explanation, perhaps I'm in a better position to understand it better. And maybe I see the applications and I pointed out many different directions, and perhaps you are already thinking about those things as well. So I'm quite happy that I had this conversation with you guys.
Well, that's very interesting, because maybe that means we need to work on our story on our website so that it's more clear from reading the website what you've learned here. Maybe we're lacking something.
Maybe I was not reading well, you can blame on me.
Well, I agree with Darren. I think we've learned a lot from speaking with you about how your discovery of what we're doing has occurred. So we appreciate that. I think that's valuable to us.